How's it going, folks? Welcome into OverTalk. My name is Chris Kid Liquid Okamura, and I'm with all my buddies. What's up, guys? I have Chris Bizzle, Joshua Piscator Lee, and Caleb Cable Finn, as well as Mr. Dylan Hornenbrook. How's it going, buddy?
Hurts.
Everplug, the Everplug.
Wow, strong plug, man.
Gotta pay the bills, man.
All right, fellas. So we had the big news this week that competitive was going to launch. It literally they announced it and then it came out that day, which is awesome.
Rock on.
Not for consoles yet, but who really cares?
Ouch. I mean, I care.
That's not what he meant. He
As
said
a
that
Wii
because
U
consoles
player
are
of
trash.
Overwatch.
Yeah, that's really what I meant. So guys, we all did our placements, or most of us did, right? I know me and Josh did yesterday.
Yeah.
Yep.
All of them.
I finished before you.
Yeah. So Dylan, oh yeah, you did finish first. So guys, what? So I ended with 48.
48.
Also 48. Josh, I think
50.
50. Chris.
511.
Yeah.
No, I didn't actually finish
So
my
a 12
placement,
is
just-
what he's actually
Okay,
saying.
so he's the scrub lord that didn't finish. I mean, like,
Yeah.
when does Bizzle actually ever finish, though? I mean, like, you can just ask all of his girlfriends.
Whoa.
No, he does it
No,
first,
no.
man. What are you
I'm
talking about? What,
I'm
give
pretty
him
sure that
credit? He can at least get himself off.
Okay, very true.
This went downhill real fast.
No, it went uphill and then downhill very fast. That's how men work.
Remember, guys, we listen to Overtalk. It's the #1 PG-13 Overwatch podcast.
Shout out to the homies at Team 4 at Blizzard. Apparently, you guys listen to our stuff.
Absolutely,
them?
guys. Yeah, we've heard rumblings. That they do. But yeah, guys. So, what is everything competitive of so far?
Awesome.
Really fun.
Yeah, it's really, really fun. Bottom line, really, really fun.
People don't talk as much as I thought they would.
It's minorly infuriating, depending on, how the results of the game go, I gotta say.
Yep. I agree.
Explícame, buddy. Explícame.
So, this largely has to do with how double point cap gets graded now,
Yes.
and what the win condition is. So, for those of you that don't know, double point cap is literally one of the hardest things that we have to deal with as far as how to grade winning and losing in competitive. If you don't want to do stopwatch, it becomes increasingly more difficult to really grade it correctly, assuming that both teams are equally just stomping on offense or stomping on defense. So I'll illustrate with an example. This was my second game in competitive. I was playing Hanamura. We played the first map, we're playing defense, and we get trashed. And they beat us in about 2 minutes, 30 seconds, maybe 3 minutes.
Whoa.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, okay, wow, this is this is bad. This is not going to end well for us. So they get 2 points, and then this 10 counter loses 3 minutes. So a 10-minute counter lost 3 minutes. Essentially, the amount of time it took them to win the game, or the gap between your total 10 minutes allotted and when you cap the point.
Yeah.
So it took them 3 minutes. They took 3 minutes off that time. So 7 minutes. And I'm sitting there going well, what does that mean? Is that just our goal? I didn't really read the rules before hopping into competitive, so I was really confused.
No, it was super confusing at first.
Yeah, so my team goes in, and we win in about 4 minutes. And I'm like, 4 minutes, we didn't win. And then it's round 3, and I'm like, okay, cool. Once again, enemy team goes. They beat us in, I'd say 5 minutes. So now they have 2 minutes remaining. And I'm like, okay. This is still weird, but we're going. My team wins. We still leave about 2 minutes in our total time allotted left over. And we luckily hold round 5. And round 6, we take point A. But in order to do one round of Hanamura, we had to play 6 individual rounds. It took about 35 to 40 minutes.
Yeah. Wow.
And I'm just
That's
sitting
so
here
weird.
this is so drastically different on a time scale from any other match that I'm going to play. This could be a huge, issue, especially for a lot of players that really do, plan their playtime around how much time they have.
Yep.
So if you allot and say, hey, I can get a game of Overwatch done in 10, 20 minutes, great. Suddenly you're stuck in like a 40-minute match upon Amura, and you're like, oh, well, I have to go, and game ends in a lever. And also, it's just, when you invest that much time in a game and you lose, oh, does the salt flow.
Yeah.
So that enemy team just let it rip after that game. They were so unhappy.
I would imagine. I mean, we had something similar, except for we lost it. It was like our 6th or 7th game that was our first loss. And we had a really, really difficult push. We were defending on Gibraltar, Watchpoint Gibraltar. And we're defending, and they're like slow pushing, and they're hitting every checkpoint. And we're like, dang, man, this sucks. Like, we're going to like keep them. Don't let them finish. They finally finish, and they finish with like, I don't know, in like 7 minutes, right? It was a long 7 minutes. So we're like, crap, dude, I don't think we're going to be able to make this. We're not going to, here goes our first loss of our whole series. And we go in and we push and we win in 2 minutes. We like just super pushed and we just demolished them. And we were super stoked. We're like, yeah, that rocks. We won. And then round 3, and we're like, oh, wait, what? And like, no, hold on. It's a little bit different because it wasn't double capture. That's capture and then payload. This is just payload. Okay, so all it was then, it wasn't the timer thing. It was just, now there's a tiebreaker because we just tied.
Yeah.
Because one of them, we both finished. Even though we finished in 2 minutes and they took like 7 or 8 minutes, it tied. And so we had to play a third match, and we ended up on defense, and they took 1 checkpoint and they won. And it was just
so
like,
you went into the sudden death system, similar to what happens on King's Row.
Yeah.
Where you're essentially given 2 minutes to capture a point. You take it, you win.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And by the way, you have to get
right now. It feels like we crushed them, and then they barely beat us, right? So why is it that we lost? Which I feel you. I do. I absolutely do.
So
but then the question is,
Josh, what do you think? Because you're a competitive guy that's been casting stuff.
It's weird because we've used and seen a lot of different systems throughout the infancy stages of competitive Overwatch. The system that we have in place in the competitive mode right now, I think it's a little bit harder to understand because I know Dylan was trying to explain to us how a capture point works with the A and B point, and I still don't fully understand, even though we've been talking about it for a few minutes. And I think that's a problem.
Not complex. Like,
yeah.
And I
who's
know
going to see this and instinctively understand when it's being cast?
Exactly.
That was my reflex as well. Is it's just so complicated.
And this is something that I'm used to competitive rule sets. I've casted a decent amount of Overwatch. I work full-time in esports where I talk about video games, and the fact that I'm having a lot of trouble wrapping my head around it either means, number one, I do not possess the knowledge base or the competence to process this information, aka I'm stupid, or number two, it's a little convoluted and tricky to understand, which is it doesn't make sense to me because I know one of Blizzard's goals, their esports teams moving forward, was making sure that the rule set of Overwatch was something that could be explained in something like a full page graphic of like 3 bullet points, and that's definitely not the case because Dylan spent 40 minutes trying to explain it to us on OverTalk and to me when we were playing last night, and I still don't get it. So either I'm really stupid or this is really complicated.
And
Shut
let's
up,
just
Chris.
talk about the fact that there are like three different
PC Gamer
rule
just
sets
explained it
now.
real well.
So let me try to explain to Josh from what I've gathered from Dylan, 'cause I'm not entirely sure how it works either. But like from what from my understanding of Dylan's explanation, it's basically how many capture points can you, or how many times can you capture the point in 10 minutes? Is that essentially it, Dylan?
Yeah, how many times can you
Yes.
double cap in 10 minutes?
That's stupid. What the fuck?
Yeah. So you just go 1 for 1. So like Josh, if both teams double capture point the map, then it just lower, like the time you use just comes off of that 10-minute timer. And then if you fail to, then you either have to match or better, and then you win.
Oh, and by the
I
way,
understand why I don't understand now. It's because it's stupid.
if you finish with less than 2 minutes, then it defaults back up to 2 minutes.
I'd like to state for the record, Josh, thanks for that. Hi, Team 4.
Yeah. So, but here's my main qualm here is I know that all of these game sets have different rules, but the fact that there is zero consistency in overtime rules in between the game modes only makes this harder. Like, if someone comes in and you have to explain to them how payload and double cap and mixed work, that's already like a good bit of information you have to feed someone. And then the fact that when you go to overtime, you're like, okay, here are the overtime rules for this one, here are the overtime rules for this one, and here are the overtime rules for this one. All of that together, like, trust me, I'm a baseball fan. I've had to explain baseball to people, and this sounds like this could be equally troublesome to try and describe to people.
Equally.
Baseball to someone that doesn't know sports? My God, it's like impossible.
Yeah.
It is. Oh, God, it's awful.
Dude, it's so much harder than like anything. Because like when you think about it, football probably is more complicated as a sport than baseball, but baseball is so much more abstract and like harder.
Is it?
Like, yeah, because think about it, like football. There's so much more to football in terms of like plays and positions and how they function and like, you know.
But the goal is simple.
The
You
goal
can
is simple.
explain the goal in
Like
one
the goal
sentence.
of the goal of football is just get the ball down the field and score. Like it's easy. Baseball.
This is true.
Baseball is just like when you think about baseball, how if you're explaining it to someone that kind of knows, explaining baseball is relatively easy. Whereas like
If you have no
if you
concept
have no
of baseball
concept of
whatsoever,
baseball, it's so hard.
it's you need to hit the ball to allow players to run on these 4 bases in sequential order to score runs. But runs only count if you hit the special base that you had to start out with. But if you're ever stopped in between the special base, then you are out and it no longer counts for any runs despite progress.
Yeah, but you can
Wow, that's
only
really complicated.
you can only run when the ball is put into play, which you do by
Yeah.
hitting with another batter. But there's also foul poles that like you can keep going. Like you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Like we
That's true.
can go ad nauseum. Like, and then when you start adding the stupid stuff like bolts, then it's just like there are so many stupid things you can do, and like infield fly rolls. So, besides the point, what I'm saying is that this is rapidly becoming a very complex nature to how overtime rules are structured and competitive. But I will say, for the regular parts of the game, the scoring system I think is great. It is just, I think there is a cleaner, simpler solution out there. And I mean, I've been a big fan of, best time equals 1 point. If, both teams cap, you cap faster than they do, that should count. And that should count like from a very basic perspective.
Yep.
If you cap faster and you both double cap, that's worth 1 point. You win 3-2. Would
I get
anyone
that.
really have an issue with that?
I do. Okay.
Why?
And here's why. Okay. Here's why. So let's say in the idea that the example someone's telling about, right? So you cap and it's 3 minutes, right? So
Right.
basically, you were telling that other team, all right, you have 3 minutes to do this, or you're done, and then you just end the match like at 3 minutes, which doesn't feel good, right? It's just no part of that feels good to me.
But then you know that you have to keep on doing like these iterations of matches.
I didn't
Kill a
say
timer.
that your current system is good, right? But I don't like that idea of saying, all right, you did it in 3 minutes, you're dead. All right, bye. Like saying, like, getting on 3 minutes and then it just feels bad.
This is why I like the point system, though, because like I really do see both sides of the coin. Of I felt like gypped that we demolished them really fast. We obviously proved that we did a better push than they did, but we got the same number. We got the same credit for finishing the match. So I see that perspective, but I also see the perspective of you reach the goal, and the goal is all that matters, right? So the goal is your threshold. The goal is your goal. I don't know, whatever, capping the point or getting the payload all the way to the point. So like, so long as you both hit the goal, then who cares how long it takes? I see both sides of this coin, but that's why I like points better, because points take that feeling of like of achievement meaning something or timing meaning something. Points take that out of the system.
Yeah, but the question is like how long is too long for it? Like, is Blizzard's arbitrary number of like 10 minutes a good thing? And again, like I see the coin. On the flip side, should you be rewarded for your team just happening to get a comp? Like, let's say the teams are equally skilled, right? And your team happens to get a composition that hard counters their team, right? And you roll them, okay? Should you be rewarded for that? Like, I guess so.
Should I be rewarded in picking a counter mid laner in League of Legends? Yes, it's strategy. And guess what? We're in a game where you can literally pick consecutively. Like, you can change your strategy. And I mean, if you win the mind game, if you and your team can win the mind game of, we got the counter to you because we saw what you just played, guess what? That's strategy.
Yeah.
That's part of competitive.
Yeah, absolutely. And we found ourselves doing a lot for like hiding of information and stuff too. Like, don't go next to doors, right?
Good thing. But like,
yeah. Oh, sorry.
I just don't know how. I don't feel that. Go ahead. I need to take a break real quick. I need to go grab headphones from downstairs.
I think there's a delay on your audio too. But
anyway, getting some delay there. But so yeah, I mean, I see, you can see both sides of the coin. It's sort of I think Blizzard's testing things out. So the thing that I do want to kind of spin it to is, Blizzard obviously held it for a reason. I've heard multiple reasons why they held competitive back for a month. One of them being that Blizzard couldn't quite decide what they wanted to do with competitive mode and how, like, moving it forward. Do we think this is a good sort of system for competitive play in terms of esports for a professional audience?
No.
It's a good start.
Yeah.
It's a good
Plus
start.
one. Good start.
But I want to say this because someone brought it up to me earlier, and I think it's a decent question. Are we afraid of the draw? There are other esports that have draws. Are we afraid of using a draw?
Yes. I think from a tournament organizer's perspective, its draws are very, very problematic and difficult to sell as a storyline or to be compelling as an audience, for your audience. I think that's why people are afraid of it.
I think draws are okay as long as they're not they don't occur like statistically significantly. Like, there are always going to be game types out there that can yield a draw. Like, we had Call of Duty where like King of the Hill type games where there are certain situations where a team, after the timer runs out, can end up with the exact number of points. While that's possible, it was pretty unlikely and very, very rare, and those usually ended up in like a map replay. And from a TO perspective, I can understand how that would be frustrating, but some games just play better when there's that possibility of a draw being there. But the fact that draws can be really likely if both teams just manage to push the payload to the end, I think that's where the problem lies. So, not exactly sure how that would need to be fixed, but I agree with Dylan in that competitive, it's a good start, but right now, especially on the assault maps, it's just way too hard to force a viewer to be like, all right, who's winning, who's losing, what does this team have to do in order to win, what does this team have to do in order not to lose?
Mm-hmm.
King of the Hill, man. King of the Hill's easy to understand.
It is.
Well, yeah, and that's why it's my favorite game mode to watch.
Yeah.
It's really easy to see where people are coming from.
Do some of these problems are some of these problems fixed with a better spectator mode?
No.
Because once again, we're talking the complexity of the rules.
Yeah.
Like,
but I mean, like, if you could explain it in a way, Or if they figure out something very creative in terms of how they present it in a spectator mode, is it possible to do that?
If they could create a graphic that literally explains it to me in a way I understand, I would be immensely impressed. Like, I would give that guy a gold medal. I would go down into a mine out gold ore, sift it, refine it, melt it, pose it, and give him a giant, like, gold brick because he has just done a minor miracle.
I agree, though. That's a graphic design kind of guy. That's an informatics kind of thing of information transfer. That's not a spectator client. You're not changing the client to modify in any way, I don't think. It would be a graphics overlay that the producer would create for their tournament series. I mean, I guess if Blizzard could automate it somehow and display it in between your matches, that's great. But it's still not like a spectator mode kind of thing. I don't
think so either. So guys, so Josh and I were talking today about how good our rankings actually were and sort of where we fit in the spectrum of competitive play. So we know the scale goes from 0 to 100, right?
Yeah.
So the top score that we've seen in the world so far has been 77 out of placements.
Mm-hmm.
And the average that I've seen, I've about like 5-6 friends that have gotten 10-0 in their placements, and they're hitting around 60 to 65. And so where is that middle? Is 50 really the middle ground here, or is it not?
I don't know, because truthfully, I've seen an extreme lack of, and this could just be, a reporting error where if someone scored really shitty, they're not going to be the one to jump out and say, "Hey guys, I went 2-8 in placements, and I'm at 32."
Yeah.
That guy's not going to, go out and boast about what's happening.
No, I do have a friend that went 3-7 and ended up with 40, I think 41, 42, somewhere around there.
Okay, so it does exist, but it's underreported at this point. It's like no one goes out and like openly proclaims, "I got bronze elo." So
but what I don't think is right is I would feel like 50 would be if you go 5-5, right?
Yeah.
Because you've evened out. Whether or not you went 5 wins and then 5 losses, they bring you up, bring you back down, or you go 1-1, 1-1, 1-1, 1-1, right? They kind of like get you in the right spot. I feel like, I mean, I guess there is some adjustment based on the MMR of the people you're facing, and there's a little bit of algorithm there, but I feel like if you go 5-5, you should be 50 plus or minus 5. But we're talking, we went 8-2. I think it was 8-2, and I got 48. Well, and another guy got 55. I mean, I feel like we won 70 or 80% of our matches. We should be in a decent ranking there.
Yeah, I mean, I went 7-3 and got 50.
Yeah, but like,
I mean, you feel.
Who's to say that like the 50 or the 48 isn't better than like a majority of the people that were playing? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
right,
look at it like
what is the average number? Like, where does the bell curve at the peak of the bell curve of the population of players?
Where is it?
What number is that?
Like, I would
hopefully Blizzard will give us a graph of that within a week or something, where people laid out.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see what that is, because right now I'm just so unclear, because everyone seems to be around the same kind of bubble of like, if anywhere from 45 to 60 seems to be the bubble that I'm seeing. Josh, have you noticed anything?
I just don't think there's a whole lot of, like, part of me thinks this variation shouldn't be so wild, but not knowing exactly what goes into deciding one's competitive placing. I mean, we've been given little hints here and there as to what influences your final score, but at the same time, we haven't gotten like a hard list of things that strictly determine, or like, hey, X, Y, and Z determine your placing. So it's really hard for us to speculate, or it's just illogical of us to speculate and say, oh, you probably got placed because of this, this, and this.
Yeah.
In terms of how everybody else got placed, whether or not I think it makes sense. I just don't know, man, because we were kind of placed all over the place. I don't even know if 50 is supposed to be like the quote-unquote average score that, like, I don't know, 60, 70% of players fall into
I'm
that
so
range. I
confused
don't know.
about that.
I don't know what the distribution and like as somebody who came from like child development where all I did was like learn and like read about stats and stuff, that kind of stuff interests me a lot, knowing exactly where people are supposed to fall and what Blizzard's intentions were.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing I want to add is like, so Chris, Josh, and I have a mutual friend that we played most of our matches with. Very skilled, ex-CSGO, and
Allegedly.
at what, did he finish 7-3?
Allegedly.
Yeah, we finished 7-3.
Yeah, so
6-4.
Was it?
6-4 for you guys?
Yeah,
No,
6-4.
6-4. We lost the last one. 6-4.
Okay, so they went 6-4, and he got a 53, and I consider him to be a pretty damn good player. So
6 and 4, and he got 53.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So color me now. Given once again, I will add that I think he's a very good player. So I'm actually a little shocked that he got 53 as his grade. I thought he would have been somewhere towards like a high 50, low 60.
That's what I thought too, to be fair. Because he was getting, for like literally out of those 10 games that we played, he got play of the game like, God, had to be at least half the time.
And the fact that
So-
he put up like a 68 frag game and
Yeah, like
I don't
he was
know.
putting up crazy numbers.
So did
I
we?
don't get it.
I think we discussed this before the show, but did we actually discuss the fact that like we each got different rankings, even though we played the same 10 games with the people?
Well, yeah, that just goes in your individual performance.
But I don't think we've talked about that on the show yet. That was what I'm saying. So to explain it is that I played this all 10 games with the same 5 people, and we always had a 6th rotating in and out of just randoms. And at the end of our matches, we went 8-2. Yeah, so I just talked to John, who I played with, John Mai, and we went 8-2 last night. So we played all the same 10 matches, John and I, and also Arlen, and we each got different scores.
Sure.
Even though we had exactly the same record of 8-2. And the fact that I went 8-2 and got 48, and you guys went 6-4, and your guy got 50, I'm like,
No,
what?
well,
I don't understand that.
No, Cable, remember, you're not. This isn't League and this isn't StarCraft where.
Sure, I understand
like,
that, but what I'm saying is we don't understand what those implications are. We don't understand what the factors that are going into
Sure,
differential rankings within your own team.
No, absolutely, but I think like it goes back to the thing of, I don't think record matters as much as like you keep bringing up 8-2, 8-2, 8-2. That's fine. I just think like to me, what that kind of proves is like your record doesn't really mean as much. It's more of your individuals. Like win loss is important, but I think like it really does take into account individual performance.
It also is ranking who you were playing against and who you were playing with.
Yeah.
So let's say you were playing with someone that ranked 55. That probably counted pretty heavily against you as far as whether your wins meant more for you, as they might have discounted you for saying you were playing with someone that we think is clearly better than you. Ergo, you were kind of ripping off their success. So maybe they demoted your score because they felt that his play was what was carrying the team instead of yours.
Right.
Also, we have no idea who you were playing against.
Right.
You could have been playing against players that were considerably worse rated than you.
Yeah.
I understand that, but the algorithm should be set up in a manner that's a little bit more consistent, I would imagine. The other thing is this. Okay, so we're all familiar with League, and League is super harsh, and that it's just win-lose. It doesn't matter how good you are.
Sure.
If you were carrying and it's a 45-minute game and you guys lost by one push at the very end, then you don't get anything for it. And that's pretty harsh, but I think we've all probably come to grips with the fact that, hey, I lost, and I should have won. And if I didn't win, then I don't get the points. Now, I have always felt that there should be some kind of accommodation for your performance. So if you lose and you do really well, then you shouldn't lose quite as much, but by like a small factor. Say instead of losing 10, you lose 8. Or if you win, but you suck it up, like your KDA is horrible, then maybe you shouldn't quite gain as many LP points as you did. But I think that maybe it's either overweighting it in Overwatch the other way. That if what Chris is saying is accurate, is that your individual performance in the game, no matter win or loss, is the big decider. I don't think that that's necessarily a good thing, because let's say I think John came up with an interesting thing. So scorecards at the end of the game. Okay, I had 8 tracer recalls and healed for 2,000 damage because of my 8 tracer recalls. Who gives a crap, right? That's a stupid scorecard. Or how many environmental kills did I get? I got environmental kills. But perhaps let's take the tracer one again. Perhaps you getting 8 recalls made you stay alive for a lot longer, and you were able to be a distraction, and you were able to make sure that the guys were focused on you in this little corner and trying to follow you around instead of focusing on the point. You played a pivotal role in that game. I mean, let's go to professional League of Legends again. The support doesn't get a lot of kills, and they might not have very high KDA, but they play a very pivotal role in the winning of that game. So I don't know. It's difficult to base stats to weight your rankings so heavily on in-game stats.
Sure.
I think that's a
But
little.
I think that's the inherent problem of having a ranking system like that, where it's not eyes, it's an algorithm. And I think that same thing. Play of the game falls under the same thing of half the time it's a stupid Torbjorn turret, because is it the play of the game? Probably not. But like statistically speaking, sure, there's a shit ton of damage in a Torbjorn turret.
Yeah. So I mean, to conclude, and to with where my position, I actually like the algorithmic ranking system. I think it's better than the harsh win-loss. I think it takes into account better of who you are as a player, and I like it. But I'm just wondering where the weight of the scale is. That's all.
Sure.
Yeah, and I mean that's what we all want to find out. We essentially we've been assigned this number, and we have no clue what it means. 50 could mean you're average, 50 could mean you're good, 50 could mean, you're terrible. We don't know yet until someone comes out and says, here's the bell curve, grade yourself. We're all kind of left in this no man's land of comparing us to whatever plots of land we can see at this giant sea of numbers.
Exactly.
Josh,
so let me ask you guys
something. Hold on.
Okay, Josh, yeah.
What's up?
What?
Oh, you look like you were going to say something, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess not.
I may or may not be looking for assets for our show.
Oh.
But I am listening.
Got it.
So my question was going to be, what do you guys think of a numbers versus a bronze, silver, gold, platinum? What do you guys think of that?
I don't know. I like numbers a little bit better just because it's easier to... I like when Riot did MMR, when Riot... Back in season 2, it was just pure MMR.
ELO. Yeah.
Pure ELO. It was fantastic. That was awesome. And then what Blizzard's moving to now with StarCraft. StarCraft now shows you MMR, and it's now a hard number of what you are. Of course, you can use that in accordance with that number as well, but still.
Chris, this means I can't claim to be high diamond, low masters anymore.
Yeah, you're not.
Dude, this means I can no longer claim to be challenger in Overwatch. Come on. That was the best joke we had in the first original beta.
Oh yeah.
But I think it's my main problem with the way the number system is now is the fact that it's very transparent at the opening of the game where you are and the rest of your teammates are, and that can breed some really bad behavior amongst players. So let's say I walk into a game and I'm level 58 and I'm playing with someone who's level 62, and he doesn't like the hero I'm playing, and he now feels that he's entitled to tell me to switch to something else because he's 4 levels higher than I am. And it's a sense of entitlement that comes with very transparent numbers showing to other people, which is one of the reasons why I kind of liked Riot's system of, you can see what someone was graded last season, but you never know during a given season what someone's ranking is.
Have you met LOL Nexus or
yeah.
OPGG?
I mean, you can, but I never did that.
A lot of people did that. I think that's something that a lot more people.
Every single game.
Let me explain to you why I did it. When I really decided I wanted to climb in League of Legends, I started playing a lot more jungle. What I did was before every ranked game, I would go on OPGG, I would look at the lowest ranked shitter on the other team, and I would camp the fuck out of that lane.
Yep.
Or I would just find the person on a losing streak and just camp
Yeah.
the hell out of
Dude,
them.
you do that all the time. It's so good. It's like the easiest way to climb in League of Legends.
As
It's
soon as you get somebody
psychological
to
warfare as opposed to your actual skill in the game.
Dude, but
that's
like
part of
that's
the
part of your skill though.
metagame.
It is, absolutely. Whether you're in a live tournament or whether you're playing online, I agree fully. It's part of it.
That's why you
Mental
gotta yell at
fortitude.
people at a LAN.
Get wrecked!
Yeah. I'm okay with the number system. I think it's honestly one of those things where we're just arguing that, it'll make people shitty when people are just kind of act shitty to begin with. That's something we just aren't going to change about people. Whether or not this makes it easier for people to be shitty with each other, I don't think that's something that Blizzard should necessarily be worried about, because once you start worrying too much about what the community thinks and trying to give them everything that they want, then you have something like Call of Duty Ghosts, which was just a travesty because Infinity Ward, in an effort to be really nice to the community, decided to give them everything that they wanted, and that ended up going terribly. Like, trust yourself as game devs, trust yourselves as the guys who are educated and who know a lot about this world and how to create these things, and just do what you think will make a balanced environment, honestly. And I think numbers, gold, silver, blah, 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 whatever, it's all arbitrary anyway. Just stick with it. But going back a little bit to the whether or not your personal stats and stuff should matter in terms of how much LP, quote unquote, that you gain in a game or how influential that game's results are. I think if we start gearing it a lot or weighting stats really heavily or weighting them at all, it'll get the wrong playstyle from people, because all of a sudden you have the soldier who's just shooting at the Winston shield or shooting at the Reinhardt shield when there are other targets available just because he wants to get a 25k damage game. Or one example I'll give is John's like a good friend of mine. I love him a lot, but he is a stat whore a lot of the time. And he just goes for like the super flashy play. He just dives backline constantly and just like goes for the play of the game. That kind of play isn't really conducive to a team environment. And if we encourage something like that by rewarding it, then I think that'll just be really, really hectic for solo players.
All hail John Mai.
I love John. He's a
He's
good
in
dude.
chat, by the way.
Dude, you are such a stat whore, man.
I'd say that every time he gets a
Not when
stat
he
card
plays
or play the game. All hail
He'll
John
mention it
Mai.
every time. He's like, oh my god, I took 20k down. I'm like, chill the fuck out, John. John always going for, like, in League of Legends, Overwatch, he'll always go for the flashy play, and he pulls off like the craziest shit. But sometimes you'll just hear him go quiet because he's like silently tilting.
Oh, God.
Holy
It's so
crap. Wait, it's the kind of thing of like, yeah,
See,
you could have a
my
shitty
problem-
game and then
my
like
bigger
just have one
problem
big
with
thing.
Is John saying anything?
Yeah, he was like, WTF, I do good stuff for the team, OMG, hashtag all hail John Mai.
I love John, man, but sometimes
Okay.
he just goes full
My
tilt.
bigger problem with that is switching characters in between games. So I'm playing a match, and I recognize we need a second heal, right?
Whoa. Bizzle,
Oh,
you are.
Bizzle,
It's
Bizzle.
not-
You're
am I
not
out?
clear right now.
I'm gonna try to rejoin the call.
Okay.
But I got what Bizzle was trying to insinuate. So Bizzle's main thing is like, if we're doing stat-based grading, you can change substantially, essentially, who your hero is and what your role is inside of a game. So what are you being graded against? Are you being graded for like the 3 minutes you played Winston? Or are you getting graded against the 6 minutes you played Mercy?
I would say it's weight.
And is there like some consistent grading algorithm that's incorporating the fact that you have to do hero switches that completely
Yep.
change the stat grades of what's happening?
Exactly.
And the bigger thing is, like, it'd be cool if it did, like, am I good now?
Yeah.
Okay. It'd be cool if it did a per minute. Like, if you did X healing per minute, right? But
Which it might. I mean, there are a lot of
Yeah,
people
which
that
we
think
don't know.
this is happening off the old score system.
Right. Yeah. My thought is that just as a general, I think that the scorecards are correlated to the MMR gain or loss in a game. So it's not that the MMR gain is as a result of the scorecard. It's just that they both come from the same place. So they're both probably using similar algorithms to say that you played well. That's my thought. So what that means is then if you do get a scorecard, it most likely, although not all the time, means that you are going to get more MMR for that game. That's my instinct right now. I don't have anything to back it up.
Can we get Blizzard on here to tell us that?
Possibly.
Come on.
Team 4, please. Team 4.
I'll give you the Kaplan answer. We here at Blizzard, we put a lot of emphasis on people being able to have fun in addition to creating a really competitive environment for Overwatch players. And we do this using a really cool and neat system that takes into account a lot of factors in order to determine exactly where you should be placed in the competitive landscape. That is exactly what he'll say.
Dude, honestly, that was a fantastic
That was
impression.
very well
Right?
done.
Listen to it. Nothing against Kaplan. I think he's been one of the greatest game directors that we've seen in a while in terms
Well
of
done.
transparency.
Yeah, he's been great.
His
But
communication is phenomenal.
But that's just the answer that they have to give. Their hands are tied in that regard. We're never really gonna see a full on this is exactly how it works, because all of a sudden then you'll have that just opens up a completely different can of worms in my opinion.
Yeah, you have min-maxers who come in and just do it all.
Yeah, fuck that.
All right, guys.
Which
I don't know,
think
I
is maybe that's a good question.
For what?
Are we afraid of transparency in the grading if it means that people will change their playstyle to do it?
Yes, I
I'm
think that's
afraid of it.
I think that's a very big concern.
Yeah, I think that it's a very complicated issue, because if you don't have transparency, then how do you know that it's a good grading system? You don't. Maybe I'm not saying this, but maybe the grading system sucks, and maybe it's going to keep sucking if there's never any transparency and nobody can ever know whether it sucks. But if they never give the transparency and say, oh, it's just a bunch of factors and we don't want to release what those factors are, then I don't know. It might be good, they might not.
Yeah. So, guys, has anyone played matches after their placements so far? Has anyone?
I've not had the time.
Yeah, we
Like,
played one.
And okay,
Not
so
yet.
Cable, how much? What was after the match? Did you move up or down at all, or what was that?
Wait, okay, hold on. We played two. We won the first one and we lost the second one. I got a 20th of the bar, whatever the bar is. I got about a 20th of the bar for winning. I lost about a 10th for losing. Those are the two games that I've played so far. But John said that on the game that we won, he got 80% of the bar on his one win. The same win that I got 10%, he got 80%. From 55 to 56, and I got 10% from 48 to 49. I don't understand. Yeah.
Clearly, John is carrying harder.
Yeah.
Apparently. All hail John Mai.
Oh my god.
Dude, we should have OverTalk shirts that say that.
I coined that yesterday. Every time he would get the stat card, I'd say it.
Oh God. So
You can blame me now.
I mean, I think the system's good. I think I had no idea they were going with that progression bar thing. That's a little strange. I think it's better if you just go with the straight MMR style, ELO style. Your number changes after every match. Your number just adjusts itself.
I think that there's
Yeah,
a balance of gamer compulsion / player addiction, whatever you want to call it. There's a balance of that, of developers playing into that psychology versus just pure and straight numbers. When people just see pure and straight numbers, you and I, we're really hardcore numbers people and statistics people, and we're really interested in that kind of stuff. Maybe we liked math and physics in school, but not the whole percentage of people who play this game are into numbers and stats. And when they see numbers and stats, they get really annoyed, or
They should be.
whatever. They lose interest. They should be, but a lot of them lose interest. So you kind of have to play this gamer psychology thing of progression and feeling like you're doing more, or you're getting farther, and a little bar that shows you graphically that versus some numbers. Whoop-de-doo. I don't know. I prefer numbers, and I agree, but I'm maybe explaining why.
Does
I
anyone
will also say that for rewards, it's a lot cleaner to control the system inside a hermetic sealed bubble than say, okay, this system could infinitely scale out to 3,400 elo.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. I mean, like, if you keep it in the 100 box, like, you can cap it. It just, you have the skill, like, your skill, you can flow throughout the system freely. So, like, if I go on a streak, if I start at 40, right? If I have a bad night, you start at 40, and then I all of a sudden go on a hot streak, I could theoretically jump up to, like, 50 or 60.
In one night?
Yeah, like, no, that's what I'm saying. Like,
I don't know.
Like, no, I know we don't know, but I'm saying, like, in my mind, that would seem plausible. Like,
Okay.
at least for a system that I would want to see without the bar, of course. Like, where you're just numbers. You're looking at what is your score out of 100.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, that's more efficient or just better for ranking true skill.
Now, do you think that there's a hidden MMR number, like say an ELO number,
I think they have
that is
to.
directly? But do you think that it's directly correlated to your number, or do you think it can be like League, where theoretically somebody could game the system, be Bronze 5, but be Diamond 1 MMR?
I'm not That's a good question.
You know that guy who did that, right?
Yeah,
Like,
no, I know.
Okay. That's what I'm curious of, is if there's a direct correlation, or if the MMR progressively scales and it has a scalar quantity that maybe is actually exponentially scaling because you want your level 100 to be, 0.01% of the player base or something. So there's going to be some exponential or disproportionate scaling of percentages. And I'm sure you would want your number 100 to be, not the full bulk of your players either. I don't know. But like in League, there were so many bronze players. Bronze was 60 or 70% of all players in the world was Bronze League. And is that what they want? Do they want all people being 80 to 100 or 60 to 100?
Sure. Well, I know the new StarCraft.
No, I'm sorry. I mean 1 to 40, or I mean the other way. 1 to 40. They want everybody being low.
I know the new StarCraft system is evenly distributed except for Masters and Grandmaster. I think it's 24 20, like it's split bronze 24, silver 24. Yeah. Or is it 20
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like 20 across the board, and then of course you have Masters and Grandmasters that don't apply, that are just kind of put in their own bubble. I think it's top 2% still. But like, I don't know. It's an interesting thing.
Do you think that things like bronze, silver, gold, platinum, do you think that they should be attached onto this number system?
I think so. I think it helps. I think it helps just figure out what your number... Like right now, the problem we're having is that the number is so ambiguous. It's just a number that we don't have any idea or correlation to what that number actually means skill-wise.
Yeah.
So like applying something like, even if we go back to the thing of beta where it's like challenger or whatever, like just having that next to it just kind of helps.
It'll sort itself out over time, just like League Elo sorted itself out. But I tend to agree with you.
Does anyone not agree? Anyone not want that? Nose to nose?
I want a mystery.
I mean, like, it's kind of the thing with Dota, right? Does anyone play Dota? Like, Dota has the same kind of problem.
I agree.
Yeah. So, guys, Bizzle, I want to take this time to thank Bizzle and Dylan for going ahead and holding down the fort for a couple of weeks, because I don't think I know I haven't hosted the show in 3 weeks, which is a long time.
Has it been that long?
Yes, because I missed out on E3 because we were all in LA. Or actually, we took the week off for E3 because I was in LA. Then I had something come up, so I couldn't with my new child, so I couldn't do it. And then last week, Josh got me sick because we were making out too much.
Yeah.
and no, there's a cold going around our office, and so we all just got
It was bad, man.
gigantic colds.
You don't want that in a production environment, that's for sure.
No,
It was bad. Like, our last week of shooting was an incredibly tough time. Like, trying to be all energetic and on camera when you're like dying.
Dude,
it was like that. Remember that day when I could barely talk and stuff, and I was just like almost crying.
He could barely talk, and then there was points in time where like all of us are trying to read the prompter and not cough. And I was like, dude, I can't do this.
It was a rough week, but we got through it.
Now we're all healthy.
Now we get to shoot like 400 minutes tomorrow.
Oh shit, yeah, that's true. All right, guys. So, have you noticed any trends in competitive Overwatch yet? Anything different from regular play that we thought was going to be more serious, but I mean, have you seen crazy
Same
shit?
old shitters, man.
Like
Same
team
old.
comps or
Yeah,
strategies
comp strategies, anything.
Well, one of the things I said earlier is we try to information hide a lot more now.
Yeah.
Especially at the start of the game, like you'll have one guy go to the front and scout. Like so let's say you're on attack on payload
Yeah.
or on capture point or whatever. You have one guy go to the window and look, and then analyze. Okay, there's a Torbjorn here, there's a Pharah here, there's a Widow here, and try and snipe out as much. But everybody else stands back just in case there's a Hanzo with his wall map hack that he can see through walls. So that they don't know exactly who you are, and you're all bunching up against the window. We tend to also go more turrets, actually, as weird as that sounds. And we were winning a lot with more turrets on defense. I don't know. Maybe that'll move its way out, but
So I got to spin a yarn for you guys. Actually, Josh, do you want to tell the story? What happened last night? Or Dylan?
All right, so Chris and I got a little bit too drunk, and then we were going out. Wait, what story?
Are we doing the overtime story?
The overtime.
Yeah, I can link you the video if you want to drop it in chat as well. But
Yeah.
to all of you who are listening and cannot experience this in a visual medium, what happened was we're playing Numbani in competitive mode. We go to overtime. We win the coin, or I guess the coin flip turns out we're attacking. So we have to win
That's
within 2
winning.
minutes.
That's winning the coin flip.
We won the coin flip,
coin flip.
and we were attacking. So what we did was
we forced Chris off Diva, which was a minor miracle.
the conversation went Chris, can you play loose? Somebody mentioned can you play anything? Can you play something else? I'm like, but he only plays Diva.
Our argument is that Diva is a very slow scaling hero, and in a 2-minute environment, the chance of you actually getting her ulti are pretty low. Which is a big part of her kit.
Mm-hmm.
So we're like, can you pick anything else? And Josh's like, I think he can play Lucio.
I can actually play a ton of heroes. I just don't like to.
And Chris was like, I don't want to. I'm like, play Lucio. And he's like, oh, okay. And I'm like, fuck this. We're doing this. And two of us, Dylan and I, both lock Winston. And immediately Alex on our team, who just hates double Winston, it's like, dude, this is some bad karma. I feel so dirty doing this. But what happens is we end up winning in 35 seconds because double Winston is super broken. Everybody was overextended on the other team, so we just jumped over them, deleted their backline immediately, and out of the 10 kills that we got in that round, 9 of them were Winston.
Wow.
It was so dumb.
I mean,
and we have the highlight. So I'm going to throw the highlight in the chat, but dude, it was really stupid. I've never seen anything. So it's on New Bonnie, right? So they're all waiting down that main street, waiting for us to come by. And all of a sudden, I speed everyone up and we just run past them. There was a Zarya shooting us and we just ran past her to the point. And so at the end, right when we were about to reach the payload, there was 3 people literally not even shooting at us, running with us, trying to get to the payload faster so they could contest point.
Wow.
It was just not even. It was so stupid. I've never seen anything that dumb before in my entire life.
We did something similar on Anubis. It was our last placement match, I think. It was the very last match of the night that we lost, and it was a tiebreaker. And we, hold on, it was double because Anubis is double cap, and we only had 2 minutes left, I think. And it was they were obviously better than us. So I said, okay, there's no way we're gonna win in 2 minutes with standard team comp. So we went 5 Diva, 1 Lucio. We took the first point within a minute. We just they did not expect it. The cheese worked super well. Now we should have switched off the cheese because they adapted really well. They went double Reaper and double Torbjorn. I think they adapted really quickly for the second point.
Reaper as Diva. You should be
You
able to
can.
wreck him.
I don't know. They adapted very well. I don't know exactly what they did. I forget. But
Unless you're playing shitty Diva.
Well, let's not point fingers here.
I'm just saying, you should be able to 1v1 any Reaper as Diva. But keep going.
So
Continue.
anyway, the point was that I think cheeses are going to happen a lot more in this tiebreaker situation, like exactly with what you guys did.
Sure. But yeah, to go back to that really quick though, Alex Yu was right because we win 6 games in a row. Then right after we did that Winston shit, we lost 2 in a row. So
Worth for the salt. They were so mad. It was
yeah,
hilarious.
they literally went into chat and just like blew up. It was fucking awesome. All right,
It was all worth it.
Anything else about competitive before we go ahead and close out the night?
One more question for you guys that I've been thinking about. Do you think that competitive needs to correlate with the tournament scene? I know that Chris asked a similar question in that, do you think that this is the right format for tournament scene? But my question is slightly different. Do you think that it should match?
Yes.
Yes, I think so. I think it has to, just for interest's sake. So like the thing that makes League of Legends so popular is that like the same game that you're playing when you play solo queue is the same game that you're watching people play, right? So like you natively understand and can understand like, oh, they're doing this, or like I understand the situation. Like it's easier for you to kind of sympathize or empathize with like what players are going through or what players are trying to do, and it makes it more engaging for you as a viewer, at least from my point of view. Josh, I saw you make a face though.
In my heart, I would love for the competitive mode to match the tournament rule set, but just knowing that competitive mode can be comprised of 6 random players,
Yeah.
versus a tournament setting or an esports setting where you have a set team already, it really kind of messes up the dynamic, especially if you want to see something like hero limits implemented in the future, because how are you going to implement hero limits in a solo environment without causing utter chaos, and just it's not going to be fun for anybody involved. I would love for the competitive mode to match the pro setting as closely as possible, but it's just something that I don't think is going to happen if we unless we have like 2 separate playlists, like one for teams and one for solos.
I mean, I'll counter with League of Legends. You can solo queue in there. It's the same game, correct?
Okay.
So your point, that was one of your points, is that solo queuing is not, like, because you can solo queue, it's not viable for competitive to be the same as tournaments.
No, I think
We got to look at the different, like, we got to look at how different these games are, because League of Legends is a game where you're locked into a certain role and a certain champion from the get-go. The pick ban process is going to mechanically be the same, whether it's solo queue or NALCS. But Overwatch is a game where roles and hero picks are dynamic and fluid throughout the course of a match, because you can switch in the middle of them. Plus, different compositions work out in different ways, because you don't have this set metagame of people going to certain lanes or playing specific roles, playing certain champions. So because of that aspect, it's completely different from League of Legends. So I just don't understand how that makes sense, your comparison.
I just
You know what I mean?
I don't see how it's a problem, personally.
You don't see how solo, the fact that the game has a solo queue?
Bizzle. So like I kind of agree with Josh here in terms of like.
Go ahead.
Where,
explain to me. I would
like
love to learn.
like Chris, if you don't need a sniper, but this one dude is playing Widow and is terrible at it, right? Or say you're a Widow main, right? And like this dude's playing Widowmaker and won't switch off it, right? Is that gonna be frustrating for you as a player?
Yes.
Okay.
But you get,
I'm listening to the point.
I kind of agree with Chris on this a little bit, and I don't understand from Josh why the difference that you stated between League of Legends and Overwatch has any impact on whether or not the tournament style should match the competitive style.
So Josh's thing is, I think all of us are kind of in agreement that hero limits are kind of important for Overwatch competitive.
I think Cable's the one guy who doesn't agree with that. If I'm not
possibly.
mistaken.
Okay,
Yeah.
so like I'm like a really big proponent and a really big supporter of hero limits for competitive play. Like I don't think Double Winston has a place in competitive play. I think that's just kind of bullshit. But like the idea of it is, if you implement hero limit in competitive, if you mirror that in solo queue, it does not work as well in a game like Overwatch where it's so fluid, like Josh was saying, and where you don't really have set roles and positions.
Okay. I get that. I mean,
But
then just
why-
This is all based on the assumption that the esports scene, the official professional scene, will have hero limits. If it doesn't, then that's a completely different story because everybody's open to picking exactly what they want. But if the competitive professional scene does have hero limits, I just don't see how that could be mirrored in a solo environment because all of a sudden it's a race to lock your hero first, and especially when you only have a pool of 21 or 23 or whatever, like it's just gonna create like fucking chaos.
The reason it works in League is because League has a roster of 130 heroes.
And you have specific roles
Yeah.
that people like adhere to 99.99% of the time.
Okay. I mean,
like-
so yes, as much as possible. There, my answer has been changed.
Because, like, the thing is, so, like, Cable, if you lock in as a, like, in League, you can lock into a jungler and kind of assume that, like, these 20 champions, no one else will play other than you or your opponent. Right? But, like, for Overwatch, that wouldn't matter because your opponent can play
But-
the same hero. Like, you can't
Okay,
lock
so
into
my
a
question,
position
though,
for,
is
for Overwatch.
how did that evolve? I know you both know the answer to this, but how did that come about?
Sure. I mean,
What?
it's through meta and, like, standardized
Through
play.
meta over many years, right? Like ever since Dota, and even in the beginning of League of Legends, they didn't have the same meta that we have now.
No.
And so that meta has evolved over time, and you didn't know, right? Like how many people played Scion jungle versus Scion top versus Scion support,
Sure.
right?
I'm not saying like for me specifically, I'm not necessarily saying that champions are locked to a certain role. I'm just saying that the fact that roles actually exist in League of Legends, and this is something that has been stable for years and years and years, that is what makes the difference. Because sure, you can play Sona jungle, people probably aren't going to like you and it's probably going to suck, but you are most likely going to be the only jungler in the game because that is just how the game has been played for so long, and that's how almost every single game of League of Legends is played, unless you're like some bronze shitter.
No, but that's the point, is that it's been so long. So it started out where that was not always the case.
Sure, but
Right?
the thing...
And we're just starting in Overwatch, so we don't know how it's going to develop. So if it were to play out,
But
that
the way
the
Blizzard...
community decides that they want to pick one role and that's the right way, right? Then they're going to pigeonhole people, just like playing, unranked in League of Legends. You don't have to pick the roles; everybody picks simultaneously, but they kind of tell everybody. You remember when people were going double top in League of Legends, and then that switched off because people didn't want to go double top anymore. So what I'm saying is that it might come to a point where if you are above a certain level of rank in Overwatch, it's going to be generally understood that you only have one of each of these roles, or you only have one of each of these types of heroes, or the certain hero compositions are the best. We have to give it time to even develop there. We don't even know.
Sure.
So, but it could change. It could change at any point
Yes.
based on the way that the meta changes.
But I think to the point of that I was making of like hero switches and hero limits, the game is completely different when you're playing with hero limits or without. Like to
That's true.
create those and so if you created a system or like a dichotomy where both of those exist, then having a system like not implementing or implementing a system could get very messy. Like if competitive does have hero limits and solo queue does not, and vice versa, then it can get really, really confusing and really messy.
I agree, and that's why I'm asking the question: is if we think that they should mirror each other or not.
I think they kind of have to now thinking about it, but where, like, in which direction, I have no idea. But like, I think they do have to, because like I think Josh and I are on Inside Esports. Go watch on Go 90. We did a talk on on meta and sort of like how that forms and how that functions and sort of what happens there. It's a great discussion. You can go check it out. It's under the hype section
Of Go 90.
of Go 90.
Go watch now.
Yeah, go90.com. Go for it. It's now on desktops and Android and iOS.
So be sure to download it and check it out for all of your esports content brought to you by the greatest and smartest crew in all the competitive... I'm sorry, I'm getting off topic. You were saying,
that
Chris.
can't be true.
No.
I'm not
Continue
in it.
your thought.
What's
This
the
is
other one?
important. But yeah, like I just think like not thinking about it now. I think it has to. I think getting back to your question, Cable.
Dylan, what do you think?
It's so hard. I mean, really, like, I love the fact
So hard.
that, when you have more options for these teams, it does allow for, like, more ingenuity. Like, as much as, like, I'll take today. I played a game where I lost to 5 Zarias and a Lucio. And, I mean, I felt bad about it. I really did. And the thing is, like, you know me, when I face a problem in Overwatch, I switch immediately. Like, I switched to every counter possible. I went Pharah, I went Reaper, I went Bastion, and, mixed results on all 3, but I can't manage, the 5 other people on my team to make the appropriate switches. And we just got run through. Like, literally could not stop them at all. And do I wish that wouldn't happen? That, like, these insane, like, cheese comps wouldn't come in and ruin my experience? Yeah, but I mean, the freedom to be able to do that, because I mean, I've been on the other side of the coin where I've thrown, 5 divas at a point, and it's, you get a good chuckle out of it. You get a good story. So I'm not against total cheese, and I'm not against, them, changing the rules to not necessarily be the pro rule set. Like, I'm cool with them, like, experimenting, because truthfully, I don't think the pro rule set is 100% baked yet. Like, everything's testing at this point, and I think if you're gonna get too caught up in where the rankings and how everything's running right now, and you're not willing to accept that things will change and should change and are going to change, you're being awfully short-sighted. So let's let the pros have one set of rules. Let's let competitive have its own set of rules. Let's let them all play out. See which really we feel is, doing the best, performing the best, and take learnings from both. I mean, this is like the Porque no los Dosa had.
Yeah.
Like, literally, like,
No,
don't silo it to have one. Just let us test as many things as possible at this time. And, season 1, there's going to be a lot of changes. Move into season 2. Hopefully, we have something we all can sort of agree on, and season 3 just gets better from there.
Sure. That's very well said, Dylan. I think it's interesting to say too that Blizzard is the company that also did the same thing with Hearthstone, where they did Last Hero Standing, and then the community started doing Conquest, and then the Blizzard competitive scene just sort of switched to Conquest for its tournaments and stuff like that. But yeah, it's interesting to see. I'm curious where it goes forward. I'm gonna go ahead and end out the show though. Again, guys.
We're way over time.
Yeah, we're way over time. Overtime, round 3. But guys, thank you for listening, and we'll be back next week with more Overwatch news and over talking. I'm gonna go get a gold diva gun, and I will see you guys later.